Ready to escape into a world of enchanting pixels? What is up, my peeps? And today we are going to be reading Bambi. He came into the world early one morning in the middle of a little forest glade screened in by leaves and branches on all sides. There was barely room for him and his mother. The baby fawn stood swaying on wobbly legs, as if surprised to find himself out in the strange world. "What a beautiful child," said a magpie, perching on a nearby branch. "How remarkable that he can stand up by himself just after being born." Her chirping and chattering aroused the other forest creatures, who hurried to the thicket to admire the new baby. "It isn't every day," said the owl, "that a prince of the forest is born." "Congratulations!" The mother didn't answer because she was busy washing the fawn, licking him gently with her warm tongue. His little red coat with fine white spots was still somewhat mused. Mused? Yeah, mused. And on his baby face there was still a deep, dreamy expression. The fawn sank down and snugged sleepily against his mother, hunting eagerly until he found nourishment for his life. While he suckled, his mother continued her warm caresses. "Bambi," she whispered, "my little Bambi." By early summer, Bambi was frisking along behind his mother as she walked the narrow paths that ran through the woods. Wildflowers twinkled like white, yellow, and purple stars among the green leaves. The voices of 1,000 woodland creatures murmured and buzzed and hummed, and one creature, a little bunny named Thumper, thumped. "Good morning, Prince Bambi," someone called from overhead. Bambi turned his head upside down, and there, to his astonishment, he saw a family of opossums hanging from a branch by their long, thin tails. The next thing he knew, he tripped over a rock and went sprawling. His mother turned back and licked him comfortingly. Thumper hopped over and said, "Come on, Bambi, get up and try again." When Bambi stood up on his spindle legs, Thumper and his sister frolicked around him. Thumper thumped on a log with his hind legs. "I'm a-thumpin'," he announced. "That's why they call me Thumper." Bambi looked at him admiringly, but said not a word. A family of birds flew past and aligned on the branches of a tree where they warbled their little song. Bambi looked at them curiously. "Those are birds," Thumper told him. "Say bird, Bambi." "Burr, burr," said Bambi. The rabbits hopped about excitedly. The young prince had spoken his first word. Bambi was so pleased with himself that he kept saying burr, burr, burr until suddenly he said it right. Bird! Just then, a butterfly flew into the clearing and settled down right on Bambi's tail. Bambi spun around to look at it. "Bird," he said. "No, Bambi, that's a butterfly," Thumper explained. Bambi leapt toward a bush of bright flowers that resembled the butterfly. "Butterfly," he said proudly. "No," Thumper corrected him again. "That's a flower." And he bent down to smell a blossom. Bambi, too, put his head down to smell the flower, but found himself face to face with a small skunk who had hidden behind the bush. "Flower!" he exclaimed. "No," said Thumper, rolling on the ground with laughter. "That's no flower, that's a skunk." The skunk, however, liked his new name. "The prince can call me Flower if he wants to," he said. "I don't mind." There was a sudden flash of lightning and the rumble of thunder There was a sudden flash of lightning and the rumble of thunder in the distance. "I think I better go home now," said Thumper. "It's going to rain," and off he ran. Bambi had no idea what rain meant, but the loud noise frightened him, and he ran to find his mother. They both made their way to the thicket where they lay down to sleep, but Bambi was soon awakened by the splashing sound of water. The fresh... wet, earthly smell and the plop of a raindrop that, now and then, landed on the tip of his nose. So this was rain. The lightning flashed again, and the thunder boomed closer. Bambi snuggled nearer to his mother. She bent her head over, covering him and shutting him out of the noise and the wet. Very soon, Bambi fell back to sleep. One morning, Bambi and his mother out of the forest One morning, Bambi followed his mother out of the forest and into the big open meadow. We must be careful here, she warned. There are no trees and bushes to hide us, so we must be sure it's safe. She stopped at the edge of the wide open space and stood motionless as she sniffed the wind, looked in all directions, and with head held high, listened intently. At last she said, "Come on, Bambi, it's all right." There were other deer out in the window, nibbling at the sweet clover, and there was a pond with a duck and a frog. Bambi's eyes grew larger and larger as they surveyed this broad new world. He drew back, startled, when a strange fawn bounded over to him. He had never seen one before. The fawn, trying to be friendly, edged closer to Bambi. He backed away, stumbled over a root, turned and dashed off to his mother. The strange fawn followed. Bambi's mother looked down at him, amused at his shyness. "That's little Feline," she said. "Your Aunt Ella's daughter. Run along and play with her." Bambi turned slowly towards Feline. Suddenly, she gave a leap and rushed away. In a moment, Bambi darted after her. They ran in a broad circle. They leapt into the air 3, 4, 5 times. Bambi had never felt so wildly happy. The sweet smell of the meadow, the open sky, and the warmth of the sun made him leap for joy. Then something happened that was more exciting than anything else that had happened to Bambi that day. Out of the forest came the sound of hoofs speeding on the ground. Branches snapped, and someone burst out of the thicket. He looked like Bambi's mother, but was larger, and his head was crowned with gleaming antlers. He was stately and noble, his head held royally high, and his splendid antlers rising above it. Bambi was overcome with admiration. In the hush that fell over the meadow, the stately stag passed by in silent splendor. The fawns didn't dare breathe until he disappeared into the thicket. Who was that?" Bambi whispered to his mother. "That was your father," she said. "Of all the deer in the forest, he's the bravest and wisest. That's why he's known as the great prince of the forest." "How handsome he is," Bambi sighed. His mother smiled down at him. If you are cunning, my son, and don't run into danger, you'll be as strong and handsome as your father someday, and you'll have antlers like his, too." Time passed. The leaves fell from the trees, and the cold wind blew through the forest. One morning, Bambi awoke in his little thicket next to his mother to find that the world had changed overnight. It smelled different, and when Bambi peered out, the trees and bushes were covered with whiteness. "Mother, look!" he cried. "What is that white stuff?" "That's snow," she answered. "Winter has come." At first, it was fun to play with Thumper and Feline and his other friends in the soft white snow. But then Bambi noticed that life had become much harsher. Before, they all lived a rich life with plenty to eat in the meadow and forest, and Bambi, who had known only abundance, thought that he would always have plenty to eat. But now it grew harder and harder to find food. Bambi had to dig the snow away with his little hoof to find one withered blade of grass. The icy crust cut his delicate legs. Bambi's mother taught him how to feed on bark of a tree. She could stand on her hind legs and reach up high to rip a piece of bark off for him to share. But as winter wore on, the trees were stripped of their bark by hungry deer, and there was less and less to eat. "Winter sure is long, isn't it?" Bambi complained. "It seems long, but it won't last forever," his mother assured him. "I'm so hungry," Bambi sighed. Although the meadow was dangerous in the evening or early morning, Bambi's mother took him there one afternoon. Pawing aside the snow, she called, "Look here! Grass! New spring grass!" Lowering their heads, the two deer ate hungrily, two dark shapes alone in the middle of the great white meadow. All at once they heard the magpie's warning, "Look out! Look out!" Bambi and his mother raised their heads and sniffed the air, and there it was, a heavy wave of scent meant man. At the same moment, they heard the crash of a gunshot. "Run, Bambi! Don't look back! Keep running, and no matter what, to the thicket!" And Bambi's mother was off with a bound that barely skimmed the snow. The thunder of man's guns was all about, and the sounds grew fainter as Bambi ran deeper into the forest. Outside the thicket, he waited for his mother, calling to her as he wandered through the trees. "Mother! Mother!" But there was no answer. Bambi's eyes widened in astonishment when out of the winter twilight the great stag appeared. "Your mother can't be with you anymore," he said in a stern but gentle voice. Now you must be brave and learn to walk alone. Come, my son," he added as he turned and moved off through the trees. There was nothing for Bambi to do but follow. Time passed and it was spring, when all the forest animals fall in love, or as the owl puts it, become twitter-patted. They had all grown during the winter, and his friends almost didn't recognize Bambi, who had traded in his spots for a pair of small antlers. Flower, the skunk, was the first of the group to fall in love. He saw a pair of mischievous blue eyes peeking out of a clump of black-eyed Susans. There was a soft giggle, and the blue eyes winked. Then a little girl skunk emerged and kissed Flower. From that moment on, Flower followed her about, completely twitter-patted. Thumper was next, losing his hearts to a honey-colored bunny. Bambi vowed such foolishness was not for him, but when he saw his old playmate Feline, now a beautiful young doe with a soft tan coat and large brown eyes, he became as twitter-patted as any creature in the forest. "Will you stay with me, Feline?" he asked her. Feline moved towards Bambi and was about to answer when a rival buck named Rano, I think it's how you pronounce that, moved roughly between Feline and Bambi, shaking his antlers and pawing the ground. He dared Bambi to take one step closer to the doe. Bambi, enraged, charged at the buck, and they fought, antler to antler, while Feline watched and wished very hard that Bambi would win. Pushing and straining, Bambi finally braced with his hind legs and hurled himself at Rano. The buck fell to the ground while Bambi stood over him victorious. Then he led Feline away. "You were wonderful," she said softly. All that summer they were together. Once again the autumn winds were blowing. Bambi awoke one morning and sensed that something was wrong. Leaving Feline in their thicket, the young buck explored the forest. Searching for the danger, at the edge of a cliff he was joined by the great stag. They looked down into the valley in the early morning mist and saw a campfire and movement, and smelled that fearsome smell. "Man," said the stag in his deep voice, "there are many this time, more than I've ever seen before." The crows flew off to call their warning. "Quickly," the stag commanded, "to the hills!" Bambi went to join Feline, but she had left their thicket in search of him. Each called through the forest to the other, "Bambi, Feline." Meanwhile, pheasants, quail, rabbits, birds, and every animal, large and small, hurried to make their escape from man. Shots rang through the forest. Then a pack of savage hunting dogs raced through the woods. They were chasing Feline. The doe bounded away, her heart pounding as the dogs snarled at her heels. She leapt up to a rocky ridge and turned to see the dogs scrambling below her and barking loudly. She was cornered and could go no further. "Bambi!" she called. Bambi had heard the barking, and when he recognized Feline's call... Whoops, wrong page. He came running. He charged the pack of dogs and then reared up on his hind legs, using his sharp front hoofs to slash at any dogs who attacked. They kept a respectful distance. "Jump, Feline," he called to her, "and run home." When he thought Feline was safe, Bambi turned and ran at top speed, not once even leaping over a fallen tree. There was an unexpected crash of sound, and at the same moment a sharp pain in his leg. Bambi stumbled and fell, wounded by the gunshot. He had not laid there long when squirrels, rabbits, and other small animals ran past him. "Get up, Bambi, get up! The forest is on fire!" they cried as they fled towards the stream to safety. And then, as smoke began to drift into that part of the forest, the great stag appeared. "Get up, Bambi," he ordered. Bambi struggled to rise, and the stag encouraged him. "Get up, Bambi, you can," he said. "Now follow me." As Bambi limped behind the stag, the smoke stung his eyes, and every now and again a flash of flame jumped from one tree to another. Man caused this too, with a little cinder from his campfire," said the stag. "We must follow the stream to the island. The fire can't reach us there." They both plodded through the water with hundreds of other creatures around them. At the tip of the island, various small animals huddled, and in the tree branches, families of birds stared across the river as their forest home was destroyed. Bambi was in despair when out of the gloom he heard his name called as the only one creature in the whole world could call him. "Feline!" he responded joyfully. The two were reunited at the water's edge, and they stood shoulder to shoulder watching the terrible spectacle in silence. Another spring came. Flowers bloomed once again. Tender green leaves sprouted on live trees, covering the charred remains of the fire. Flower, Owl, and Thumper had families, and they were all hurrying to the thicket to see Feline and her twin fawns. Bambi and the great stag looked on from a distance. "Don't follow me any further, Bambi," said the great stag in a calm voice. "My time is up, and I must look for a resting place. Goodbye, my son. I loved you dearly." Soundlessly, he disappeared into the bushes without stirring a leaf. Bambi was now the great prince of the forest. The end. So here's some history about the book and movie. Yes. Our next story stop in the next video will be Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to y'all later.